Hey, what's up everyone? Jonathan Allen here at Floodwater Studios. Today we're going to talk about another stock plugin built in to Studio One. We're going to take a look at the VT1. Let's hop into it. So first of all, thank you guys so much for hanging out recently. We've enjoyed it all. If you're new here to the channel, I highly recommend, if you want to go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can see everything that's happening here at Floodwater. We appreciate you guys. We enjoy the growth. Everything's amazing. 100%. Again, thank you so much. Today, like I said, we're going to take a look into another stock plugin. It's the VT1. Now, this is essentially a channel strip plugin. We've gone over, the fat channel. We've taken a look at everything that has to offer. We've gone over the channel strip itself and taken a look at what that has to offer. Now, here is another offering from PreSonus, the VT1. Let's take a look at everything here. I have a session pulled up from a song that I released back in October, part of the Wishful Forgetting album. And I said last week I was going to put a link up in the corner. I forgot to do that, so I'll do it this time. So take a look up there. You can see here, I actually already have the VT1 set up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and remove that completely from the vocal chain. This is exactly how I released the song. So everything that's here, I have some other... there's more things happening in the song, but I have those hidden from the screen itself, just so we can kind of focus on the main parts of what's going on. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of plugins happening on a couple of the tracks here, especially the acoustic and the electric. Now, I'm not one to usually overdo plugins, especially on acoustic. We want it to sound natural. We want it to be, what an acoustic guitar sounds like. Now, this track, it kind of breaks the norm for some things because it's very ambient, very open, and sad. And yes, I get it. We're not, we're gonna keep on going with the Studio One guys are looking for the saddest songs. So keep listening if you want to hear this. But so I did a lot to that track. We're not going to worry about that. The electric guitar, again, there's tons that I did here, especially splitting the signal to make it stereo and doing all sorts of ambient things, which you'll hear when we play it. But let's focus on the vocal here. Now, this is a very simple vocal. We can listen to just the vocal with everything, how it's set up. Now, the compressor I'm using as the de-esser, as we talked about in the past here. But let's listen to just what the vocal sounds like. Let the rain wash away all the fear of yesterday. So as you can tell, it's very airy, very eerie. It's very wide. There's just a lot of information that's happening just with the vocal. So here we can see that we're cutting a little bit from 60, 700, boosting a little bit of 4.8, and then the high frequency. Again, I really need to look this up to see what it is because you guys deserve to know, and I kind of want to know too. But the high frequency boosting a half a dB, just a little bit of crisp to it. It's not doing a whole lot. Compressor wise, we are working with the FET comp, pulling the input up, the output up as well, just because, like I said, I record at such conservative volumes that if I bring down the magnifier here, you can see my waveforms are really, really tiny. I'm not recording at very high volumes. So we're boosting the volume there a little bit. Quicker attack, even quicker release, 4.1 ratio. So it's doing a little bit here. So we saw how that sounds, or we heard how that sounds rather, but just so you can see how the compressor's reacting. Let the pain be here to stay. Again, it's not actually moving for that section of the song. and it doesn't move a whole lot during the entire song. So let's take a look at the VT1 and see how can we get the same result from a different plugin. So we're going to go ahead and close this. We're going to keep the compressor because, like I said, that's just I'm using it as a de-esser. So it's just there solely for de-essing purposes. Now, you did see the little boosts and little cuts that I did here. If we take a look at the Pro EQ also, slight things are happening here too. Not a whole lot of movement, but we are bringing some frequencies down and boosting a little more top end just to get some more clarity for things, because with all of the reverb that's in this song, and you can see that I am EQing my reverbs, still I needed more presence for the vocal because there's just so much mid-range happening with all of those reverbs. So over here, VT1, we're just going to drag and drop that in. And this is what our VT1 looks like. So we have the input section where you can do the high pass filter, trim knob, impedance, gain. You also have the polarity switch here if you wanted to mess with that for something. We have a compressor section here, and we have an equalizer, and then just kind of an overall level knob for everything. So one thing that I do always suggest, grab your favorite set of headphones, throw them on so you can hear the most accurate representation for things as opposed to your phone speakers or your computer speakers. Unless you have studio monitors or decent speakers that you're listening through, grab a headset. So let's take a look here. And the first thing that we want to do is obviously we want to try to recreate what we previously had, or if we can get it to sound better. So the first thing that I do want to do is I want to take a look at the EQ here. So for the EQ, like I said, you know what, let's not even try to match frequency for frequency. Let's just try to make it sound good, because essentially that's what we're going for, is we want it to sound natural, we want it to sound good. So let's just hit play and see what happens.
Let the rain wash away all the fear of yesterday. Let the pain be here to stay. Remind me of what I can take. I don't wanna be the one to make it to the end, if that means I have.
Alright, so the first thing I did is I did mess with the EQ. Now, keep in mind, soloing it like this, it's gonna sound pretty harsh and pretty brittle. But the end result is, we want it to blend nicely with everything else. Now, I haven't played it with everything else yet, so you're not expecting it to sound a certain way or thinking it needs to sound a certain way. So those little moves that we just did there, and I started to move the compressor, I just put it back. Let's listen to what that EQ now sounds like with everything and see if it's too brittle, if it's too harsh, if we need to adjust the EQ inside VT1.
Let the rain wash away all the fear of yesterday.
All right, so we do need to adjust that. It is a little too harsh, so the low end, I want to bring it back in, and we're actually just going to put it back at unity here, and let's re-listen to that.
Let the rain wash away.
Bringing down that between 6 and 12K, so we'll call it, 7 to 8K, whatever it's sitting at. All right, so I think EQ wise, that sounds pretty good. It's no longer as harsh. It's sitting better frequency wise with the mix of everything. So let's now attack some compression and see if we can get it to compress what's happening again. It's a very somber song, so there's not a lot of dynamics that are happening for things. I recorded it sitting down right here at the desk, and I didn't project a whole lot. It was just a song of reflection, and, you know, I just kind of let it come out how it came out, and that's what I worked with. So let's take a look at compression here, and we'll pop over to
Let my change start today, making moves far away. Let my brain erase my name, make me new.
So as you can tell, and this happens a lot in the studio, as you're adjusting one thing, you start to hear something else that is either affected by it or something you didn't hear when you were previously listening. So as you can tell, I went and just changed the EQ slightly here. Just something was sticking out that I wasn't quite liking for how it was sitting in the mix, so we made some adjustments. And then the compression, I mean, again, there's not a lot to compress. There's not a lot of movement going here. But let's do a comparison between how it sounds with the VT1 as opposed to what I had with the Pro EQ and the Fat Channel together. We'll have to mess around to see if we need to adjust the volume aspect, the output from the VT1 as opposed to the others. But I think it sounds pretty good, honestly. But, you know, we're going to find out in just a second. So VT1, we'll go ahead and...
Yesterday, I don't wanna be the one to make it to the end. If that means I have to make it there alone,
And then we'll pop on the other ones.
I can't be the only one forced enough to bend. Only to lose you and still be on my own.
All right, so the VT1 definitely has a different flavor to it when we mix that one here. It is still more harsh than how I released it. And sometimes that's okay. Just remixing something, it can change, and most of the time it does change, especially when you're not using the exact same plugins, when you're trying to recreate something on a different plugin. But honestly, we could just pull back some of those highs a little bit, which it doesn't let you do that unless it's enabled. So pull back some of those highs, and we can even boost a little bit of the low end to kind of round it out a little bit more. And then it was actually a little louder than the other one, so we can bring down the gain slightly here. And let's see if we got a better, you know, close match for what we had originally released.
I change, start today, making moves far away. Let my brain erase my name. Let my brain erase my name, make me new. Yesterday,
All right, so as you can see, the fat channel has actually, it's different. It's not exactly the same. And honestly, it's probably not ever going to be exactly the same. Now, I can go in here, take a look at my vintage EQ and see I took out 2.8 decibels of 60. So I can go in here, I can find 60 hertz, and let's take out roughly 2.8. That's, it goes from 0 to -4, so roughly in there. Then we went to 700 and we took out 1.44. So now we're going to come up here, we're going to find 700-ish, and we're going to take out 1.44. Now, we went up here, we went to 4.8, and we boosted it a decibel. So let's go up here, we're going to go to 4.8, and we're going to boost it a decibel. Now we also then boosted the highs. Again, not exactly sure what, but only half a decibel, 0.64. So let's come up here. Let's just say it's 12K, and we're going to boost it slightly here. So even matching the parameters for everything that's there, same thing with the compressor. Let's take a look. So input, we went to, -23 dB. So not really a way to do that in VT1. So we can't do that. Then let's take a look at the attack. So attack, we went fairly fast. It wasn't a whole lot. So we'll go fairly fast for the attack. Release, it was a little quicker than that. So we'll go a little quicker for the release. And the gain is tough because of how the FET compressor works with your input and your output, how they're balancing each other out. But then 4.1 or 4-to-1 ratio, which we're right at 4-to-1 ratio. So let's listen to this to see, even if we're matching specific parameters, if we can get this to work. Now, there is a knob here that we can switch for EQ and compression to swap them in VT1, which is pretty cool, because sometimes you want to equalize something first and then compress it. Sometimes you want to compress it and then equalize. How this is set up, it compresses and then equalizes. We can swap that. So let's take a listen to what that knob sounds like while we're playing it back. It's definitely a lot closer, but it's never going to be exactly the same. I mean, heck, if you have a piece of outboard gear and you have something set and you can even take a picture of it, when you go to recreate that, if, say, you're taking that outboard gear to a live event, something else has changed, you're recording a different tune, but you're like, hey, I remember this setting I had and I have it saved here, so let me dial it back in. It's never going to be exactly the same. But that's the beauty of also working in the studio. There's so many variables that can either help something, hurt something, improve it. I mean, there's tons of options. And honestly, there's never really a bad option unless it just sounds horrible. And, it happens sometimes. And then you just kind of have to reevaluate, go from there. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. What do you guys think about this VT1 plugin? Stock plugin inside Studio One. I love these stock plugins, absolutely. If you guys have any other suggestions for plugins for me to check out or to feature here at the Floodwater channel, drop them down in the comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That's the only way we can keep going with these videos for you guys. We appreciate you, love you. Have a great day. See you next time.